Hi, it's Mrs. Hebert, and I want to tell you about acrylic paint. As you can see on the what kind of paint should I use chart, acrylic paint has the thickest body, and here are a couple thick layers. It can be used also because it's permanent. It's like basically plastic. It can be used like watercolor if you thin it out with water and use a wash technique. Or you can layer it or put it on really, really thick because it has a lot of body. So you need my pre-approval, and the aprons are over here. You need an apron. The acrylic paint brushes that I recommend are green handled. These are expensive brushes. There are also some black acrylic paint brushes mixed in here, black handled. Do not use the watercolor brushes because they're the really, really soft ones, and they don't have enough, the bristles are just so soft that they will be turned to mush when you try to use a heavy bodied paint like acrylic with them. Now, coming into the storage room, I've separated all the acrylic paint because it's off limits unless you do this training. There are different bottles, so make sure you pay attention to, because some of the tempera paint looks like this, but the Chromacryl is a washable acrylic. Supposedly it washes out of your clothes, and so we have a little bit of that, but I'm not sure how true that really is. I haven't put it to the test. This is acrylic. Also, these bottles look a little bit. This is from Saks. True Acrylic is another kind of acrylic. So be careful not to get it confused. I would like ideally for you to be mixing your colors on a styrofoam palette like this one. And here we have a little more information about acrylic paint. The pros are that it dries quickly, but that's also a con, notice. Because if you're trying to do an ombre, there's a video on the painting studio website. For example, you need to move quickly and work in with water so that it doesn't dry, leaving marks that you don't want. Okay? The pros are that it can be thin or thick. It really is the only paint that can get as thick, the thickest one. You can use it on canvas, on plastic, on metal, on wood, or on paper. Okay? Cons: doesn't come off your clothes, so you need an apron. Doesn't come off the table, so you need to sponge, put newspaper down where you're keeping your brushes on the table and stuff. You really need to sponge and dry the table, and maybe even use a scrubby sponge to get it off. The brushes need to be washed very thoroughly because it dries so quickly. It can cover mistakes because the paint can be thick, so that's a positive. And these palettes are reusable. You'll see where there are paper plates and styrofoam palettes in the painting studio that there's a section for you if you rinse this styrofoam off to leave them to dry. So you can start with a little bit of paint. Since a little goes a long way and it dries, it won't be any good, and it'll get thrown away if you don't. A little pea amount like that is a good amount to start because you can mix it with water. And you can, if you come on day one, for example, and you have some acrylic paint, you can cover it with a little bit of plastic wrap like this student has. And most of the paint will be good until day 2, but probably not until you come back again on the next day 1, for example. Oh, here are some of those black handled acrylic brushes that are really nice. Okay, so these studio acrylics are really nice sets, and they have a lot of different colors. They are full sets, which means I expect you not to mix them up. So when you open it up, there are 2 layers. And there are some metallics in there. That's silver, copper, gold. Okay, you can just not mix up and scramble up this. So I would just ask that when you're using these sets, you take about a pea amount. You can always get more, the size of a pea, that is. and put them back when you're done. If you need to cover your palette, this is a little shelf area we've been using, and if you don't come back for it, it's going to get thrown away because it won't last forever. So if you want to use acrylic paint, make sure that you've watched this video completely, and then you have to get initials from Mrs. Hebert in your packet and tell her the code word. The code word is aplomb. Look it up, tell me what it means.